A white male with gray hair, glasses, mustache, and a blue sweater sits in front of a fireplace mantel that is decorated with various sized pumpkins, fall foliage, and a mini scarecrow. In the center of the mantel, a glass-blown fish floats above the mantel on an elevated display stand. Next to him is a side table with a cup of coffee, a cell phone, and the Washington Post newspaper.
Again, my name's Rob Wolcott. I live here in Silver Spring, Maryland, where I've been for 44 years. I moved here from San Francisco for what we thought would be 2 years, but no more than 3, and here we are, and it's been a great life. I live here with my wife, June, and we raised 3 children here, and one of them still lives with us with his son, so we have a 3-generation household, which has just been a great experience that I recommend. I first learned of the Washington ear, and by the way, I use the term the Washington ear. I understand Metropolitan is critical, but I really focus more on the Washington in the ear. It was recommended to me probably 20 to 25 years ago as I was losing substantial sight, and it was recommended by a individual who helped me a great deal with assistive technology, and he felt that the Washington ear would be a great complement to what I was gaining through the other assisted technology systems and devices. I have derived immense benefit from the Washington ear. It is really a central part of my life and has been for some number of years now. It is a source of contact, information, and community. And I'm consciously emphasizing the community because there is an entire community of readers who bring each of their own traits and characteristics to how they read, the energy with which they read, the diction that they apply, the care with which they undertake the entire endeavor to bring immense benefit to all of us who are on the receiving end of this pass. And I'm aware of that community, the time of day that they've been reading, the areas of emphasis that they bring, and it's so clear to what their interests are. And even that interest instigates some curiosity on my part as to where I might go further. And frankly, a lot of them are funny. And we all need some good laughs in every day. And I really, really appreciate bringing that personal feature to it. And again, the community aspect is something that really draws me. And I think the entire listening community is aware of what this number and diversity of people bring. I am now legally blind and getting closer and closer to full-on blind. It has been a gradual process over 52 years. My condition is glaucoma. It was a trauma-induced glaucoma when I was a late teenager. And it has been challenging all along the way. Early on, I thought that I might dodge the full-on blindness experience, but I've lived long enough, and I'm grateful for that, to have experienced the full range of sight. Washington ear is what, again, has been so critical to me to progress through these stages with a fairly high degree of positivity, because there was always this information, these voices, and this contact to the diversity of literature and information out there. I began my career in Cincinnati, Ohio, and made its way from Washington to San Francisco, back to Washington. I'm trained in business with graduate degrees in both, and I'm a one step short of a PhD in economics. I never completed my dissertation because I took that great job and never looked back, and I'm glad I did it that way. If that blindness had beset me at a much earlier age, it would have been very difficult to have traversed this path, but luckily it happened in the sequence that it did. There were many adventures in blindness for me as I tread that path. You know, much of it between ages 30 and 60 were ones in which I tried a great deal to hide it or to diminish it, because I perceived, at least at that time, that the impact of that which I wrote and that which I spoke would be viewed differently. And I realize now that that was a mistake. And I wish that I could rewind that tape, but I didn't, and I had some very humorous and challenging experiences along the way. I feel a real sense of commitment and strength in terms of confronting and living with my blindness, using the tools and the communities that are out there to perform the full measure of what one can in one's professional and personal life with whatever condition of visual acuity we have. And now I feel almost the opposite of where I was when I was 40, 45, 50, that if people see us, experience us, confronting life, engaging life, taking on the full challenges that the sighted community does, and achieving, communicating, prevailing, they will recognize and salute those achievements and expand their openness to the blind community. There were times when I was giving speeches to thousands of people, and I realized I can't see them. They think I can see them. They're reacting to me in ways that would signal they see me as a normal sighted person. And it was satisfying to kind of, as I saw it then, fool them or win the game that I had created for myself to play. And again, I realize now that was all either entertaining or part of my insecurity. But in the full measure of daylight now, I would stand proudly before them and offer myself as the full complement I am. That is the absence of that acuity. I've traveled throughout the world in the period during which I was fully sighted, or more or less fully sighted, and then through the entirety of the period of loss. And from South Africa to Asia and Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, throughout Europe, I had many responsibilities that professionally took me to these locations. And I always had the Washington ear. When I couldn't get to sleep in a timely way, when time zones had messed with, a day and a night. And it was always so kind of comforting and informing. And for me, it became both a source of insight and information and a sleeping pill. Because it was that I was connecting with that community and then feeling grounded in that manner that I could take in, a half hour of reading and then lay back and go to sleep, or just listen in a time when I had some extra time in those areas. And cost me a lot of money on a Verizon bill in some instances, but it was always worth it. And in that sense, the Washington Year is everywhere that any human has yet gone, because our technology allows us to consume it that way. In terms of how I connect with the ear worldwide, I will find myself, for instance, back then, in a hotel in Cambodia. And at midnight, I'm not getting to sleep instantly because I just landed, a day ago. And I'll get on my phone and dial 301-681-2666. And that is the access number. And the other thing is, I may read the Post for 30 minutes and feel I've gotten the full version of it, and then I can go back to the key that allows me to switch to a different publication. And then I can press the number 7 that can take me to some options for the New York Times and others. And then I can press 1 to go to the New York Times. And usually there are 12 to 15 articles that are read that gives me a really full complement of what the Times offers that day in terms of world news, in terms of business news, international news, editorials, and the arts. And it's a pretty full read. It's well done. Some of the most excellent readers basically covered the Times for the readers at the Ear, and it's a wonderful access to the Times that I didn't take advantage of when I was sighted. So an immense irony is I became a much more voracious, voluminous reader because of the Washington Ear, because it made it so readily accessible and so appealing to consume and engage. I don't want to be so extreme as to say, sure, glad I lost that sight. But one of the great benefits of this immensely valuable service and the technology that it relies upon is that persons such as myself, and frankly, the entire breadth of those in the vision impaired community, can be introduced to a far wider breadth of literature and information. And this is something we all, and I intentionally employ the pronoun we all can appreciate, utilize, and appreciate on the part of the Washington Ear enterprise, bringing this entire panoply of value and services to us. Well, the Ear is available wherever an ear can be located. From wherever on this terrestrial or marine surface you can dial now, employing this technology, a number that will get you to the Washington Ear. And what I mean by the availability of the ear wherever ears are located is that we have the technology to access the Washington Ear on any terrestrial or aquatic surface on this planet. And I'm sure that within 10 years you can get it from the moon or from whatever Elon Musk has in mind. The other point I want to emphasize is that the ear, the Washington ear, isn't strictly a unilateral, unidimensional service. It's a conversation for me, because when I'm tuning into it and listening, I'm aware of the personalities, or at least certain aspects of the personalities of the readers with whom I become familiar. And there is an implicit conversation that's going on here. And my part of the conversation is the listening part, granted, but it's a powerful one that I think is important for us at the ear to understand and appreciate. Strictly a product of the unique individual voices that the readers are bringing us, which is in dramatic contrast, as we all know, to the autonomic computer-driven. I'm sure AI will make it difficult to distinguish at some point. But there is a humanness that the ear brings that AI, again, will, bring and complicate. But at least now, we have this human community of readers that we understand to be so committed. They're all doing this at ungodly hours of the day. There I lie asleep while many of them are doing their reading. I've spoken at some length with a guy named Eric Luftman, who reads the Times on Friday, not all the time. Mm-hmm. He is spectacular.
What's the person's name again?
Eric Luftman.
Okay, thank you.
And it's like some people would do TGIFs to get a beer. I would do TGIFs to get Luftman.
I like that. Thank you.
I might have a beer at the same time, but he has a kind of erudition to his reading where it's just spectacular. It's not like he's performing, but he commits himself fully to it. It's a multi-hour thing that he prepares to do. I've referred people in other states, and Dave Warren has really gone out of his way to tee things up for these several people. I had the experience of learning that a close friend of mine in Ann Arbor, a retired professor, had lost substantial amounts of vision and was also experiencing advanced Parkinson's. And I told him a great deal about the ear, the Washington ear, and he was very interested, and I gave Dave Warren a call. I don't even know that I knew that was his last name. I just knew that Dave was the guy. And what's the woman's name who used to be the executive director? Neely. I think I also called Neely and said, with whom could I speak? And she said Dave. And Dave then was very responsive, and I think by both email and by voice, he got a hold of this professor. His name was Bunyan Bryant, and teed up with excess numbers and so on and so forth. And I can't tell you the frequency with which Bunyan used this, but he was immensely appreciative. Truth, I'll be generally seated at our kitchen table with a landline.
Okay.
And as I shared with Mark 2-3 weeks ago, I've come to rely on the landline, and we only keep a landline for 2 reasons. One is to find our cell phones, and the other is the Washington ear. Because for a person who's poorly or not sighted, navigating the keypad is challenging. And one can do so through voiceover, but it's tedious. Whereas with a raised dial pad on a on a landline phone, it's really quick. And
The scene changes to Rob seated at a large, round wooden kitchen table with coffee mugs, cloth napkins, and a portable landline phone. The table is encircled with large paned windows that offer a partial view of a deck and a backyard with various bushes and a bird feeder in direct view.
so I utilized this landline, which is probably from the 1940s. I'm kidding, but I use it because it has these raised, integers on the keypad, and it allows me to, in a tactical sense, have much more control over the accuracy of the numbers that I'm inputting into the telephonic system. So I turn my phone on by just pressing a certain button here, and then because I'm not seeing it, I just learn how to if you will, digitally dial the Washington ear number, and it always takes 2 rings to connect. All right, I reached it. Now I input my ID numbers, essentially. And that's how swiftly and accurately I can put it in. And frequently my go-to is to press the one for the Washington Post and say I want to listen to the public, for the opinion page. If I want to increase the volume, I can do so on this portion of my phone. And then if I want to, maybe I'm in a bit of a hurry today, so I want to read a little faster, I press. And then maybe I want to just listen to myself, so I can take it off of speakerphone and just listen myself and not disturbing the rest of the family.
The scene has returned back to the living room area by the fireplace.
I have derived immense benefit from the Washington ear. It is really a central part of my life and has been for some number of years now. It is a source of contact, information, and community. And I think this notion of community is very powerful. I think it's powerful to funders. I think it's powerful to the potential listening public. Not the current, but the potential. Because frankly, everybody wants to, in some form or fashion, be a part of a community.